So it's 7 o'clock, and we'll be going to public comment. So to our two superintendents, I apologize, we're a little behind schedule. Is there anyone here for public comment? Okay, Muffy, you want to start?
I want to ask a question. Is that okay? You have gone through all of these things which are important. Then you go to public comment. And after that, you go to the Country Club of Woodbridge, an update by people running it, Country Club of Woodbridge Ad Hoc Committee, progress report. How come that doesn't come first? So that when you get to public comments, we could comment on whatever you have. With very little out in public as to what is going on with the country club. And I would think that would be something before the public comment. So we have public comment, we can't comment on something that we don't hear.
Thank you, Edie. Yes, this agenda is put together to cover many very important topics for the town.
Well, that's a very important comment.
Yes, these are all, and public comment is for members of the public to come and speak about any topic they wish to. It's not a discussion time at this Board of Selectmen. Thank you, Edie, for your question. Muffy, did you want to say something?
Sure.
My name is Martha German. My address is 1170 Johnson Road, and I am here tonight to speak out against development on the Country Club of Woodbridge. I live on the corner of Johnson and Ansonia Roads, directly opposite the golf course, and I live in the Old White Farmhouse, which is number 82 in our architectural survey book. It is my family home, and I have had many years to walk every acre of the golf course, from the hushed and scented white pine grove, where I gather cones and fallen greens to decorate the Thomas Darling house in December, to the path beside the little stream along Johnson Road, where in the summer the wild forget-me-nots color the banks a brighter blue than the water itself. I don't play golf, but I've sledded, snowshoed, and failed at cross-country skiing on the slopes over there. I believe that I was probably the first person to call in the fire that destroyed the original clubhouse. But the issue at stake here is much larger than my love for those remarkable 150 acres. They must not be frittered away bit by bit in ill-conceived and short-sighted development. My neighbor Roger Sherman and I have drawn up a petition requesting no change in the zoning that would allow condos or cluster housing on that property. We and other concerned residents have collected hundreds of signatures. This is neither a political nor just a neighborhood statement. People from all over town are saying they do not want development on the golf course, and they say that open space is what they value most about the town. Roger is away tonight working on a movie set, and he asked me to read a brief statement. This is it. I am unable to attend this meeting, but want to voice my comments regarding any development on the town property known as the Country Club of Woodbridge. I strongly oppose the proposal for development. The consultant's report was incomplete and did not address the following. 1, how the property values will be adversely affected in the area. 2, how the increased traffic congestion created will affect the area. 3, the cost of relocating the clubhouse to Johnson and Ansonia Roads. I respectfully submit these concerns to the board. Thank you, Roger Sherman. While Roger's concerns are immediate and specific, mine are more general and long-term. A change in zoning on the country club will set a precedent that developers are certain to use to try to force the town to change zoning on other prime sites, such as Hubbell's Merry Mountain Farm, the Baldwin's Homewood Acres on Racebrook Road, or even the Shepherd Farm. The town will be changed forever. I'm not going to turn in the many pages of petitions tonight. We will continue to collect signatures until it is absolutely clear that the majority of residents do not want development or zoning change on the Country Club of Woodbridge. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? No?
Hi,
Hi.
my name is Emily Cosenza. I live on Center Road here in Woodbridge, and I'm here to comment on the Country Club of Woodbridge property. I too would have liked to have heard the progress report before commenting, but I still have some quick words that I would like to get across and like to have heard. You can hear me, right? I can't really hear that. Okay. So, first, I would like to say and strongly emphasize that I feel very fortunate to be able to live in a town with so much open space. I'd be that first person in line to advocate for open space. I respect all the work that the Woodbridge Conservation Commission has done through the years, and I feel fortunate that we are also lucky enough to have the Woodbridge Park Association. But to me, this is really not an issue of open space. It's really about removing and/or changing, depending upon how you look at this, the burden that has been placed upon taxpayers in this town due to the debt we owe on this property, the condemned building, and so on. I believe it's condemned. If it's not, it should be, but okay, so it's probably not yet, okay, even though it has lots of things falling in, shall we say, okay? So then it's not. So to me, it should be, we should look at it perhaps in a different way and with a different eye. And that might be about considering giving options for living in this town to others. I, for one, would be one of those people. I would love to remain in the town of Woodbridge, but my needs may change. To me, an active community for 55 plus would be the ideal situation or opportunity for me, should I need to sell my home. But it would still allow me to be in a town where most of my friends are, where many of the things I care about are, and hopefully will remain. So it would give that opportunity. I would also be engaged in a more social way as I age. I might be engaged in a very social community building that would provide opportunity for all kinds of leisure activities and stimulation, rather than being isolated in a house on 2 acres. I think it affords some great opportunities for our population here in our own town that we all love. Let me say, and I think realtors can bear this out because they would have more data. But it is my understanding that we have had quite a few members of our community move in the last year, and many of them have moved to Orange, where I believe it's called Fieldstone, I'm not sure, right there on Route 34, which is in fact a community for active individuals with a beautiful community building and so on. I'd love to have a community building here in town. Maybe it would afford, again, opportunities for a mix of individuals in our town, not just seniors, but it would be maybe a meeting place for for many people. So, many towns, I think if you look around, have these communities. North Haven, Quail Run, fabulous. Seymour has one. Orange, as you know, around the corner has the newest one. Brantford, I think, has 2 to 3 of these communities. And I think it's time for us to really look around and think, how can we afford this? And you know what? In my mind, what's wrong with having even 2? If there are thoughts of having one in another part of town, what would be wrong with having a second community like this? There could be trails on this community. There could be a conservation easement so that it would be available to everybody in town to utilize, to walk, not for this certain select few, but for everyone. So I urge you to consider this thought, to consider this idea. It may be a different wave than what you might be hearing or have heard, but I encourage you to think of others in this whole picture and to think about our debt and taxpayers' issues, especially the elderly, and what that might mean in terms of easing that burden on individuals. And I don't want to, it doesn't need to be an adverse kind of thing. I think it's all how you look at these sorts of things. And if you look at other towns, I don't think it's adverse. Those places are filled up. You can't even get into many of them. So that's all I have to say. And I thank you very much for listening and for your time.
Anyone else?
Good evening, I'm Richard Forselius,
Good
1105 Racebrook Road. And I have total support of every element of Martha German's thoughtful discussion a moment ago. And I have process concerns in 3 points I'll briefly make. First is the apparent significant lack of transparency on this process, including motivation, which I believe is more than financial. Secondly is what I believe a flawed approach in many regards to suggested zoning change for a specific parcel, that this is in fact an extremely bad idea. And thirdly, I've mentioned this twice in the past when you've asked for public discussion, the business plan on the golf course itself and the included facilities. Apparently, my suggestions were ignored or dismissed by the board. I suggested having a group of citizens create a consensus business plan and especially a long-term plan for the use of the property. Thank you.
Anyone else? George?
My name's George Gearing. I live at 8 Crestview Drive, and I'm here to speak about a condition that we've had. We've had several meetings. The first meeting started with Ed Sheehy, and it has continued, and we've had several, like I said, several meetings. And we were given an offer where the town would give us X number of dollars if we cleaned the ditches ourselves. Now, the ditch problem is not a Crestview problem. It's brought about by various situations that developments in the area that are sending water down to Crestview. The town engineer, we had a meeting several weeks ago at which the first selectman and town council was there, Warren Connors was there, and Bob Criscola was there. Although neither Warren or Bob got a chance to speak. The town council came to me and we gave you an offer, are you going to accept it or not? And I said, no, we have already told you we're not going to accept the offer. And first selectman and town council walked away from us, left us standing there. Warren Connors took the time to spend some time with us to go over some of the situation. Now, The Southwest Conservation District, they have looked at the site, and they're in complete disagreement with what I'm getting from the town of Woodbridge. I have the reports here from them, they're all a certain number of pages, there's photos, and there are remarks, which I'll give to the members of the board when I finish my presentation. Basically, he states that the ditches should be cleaned. Now, the town is saying no, and he's saying yes. What's happening, the pond is filling in. And the ditches were cleaned in 71 when I left the service. I was moving in over there, and they were cleaning the dishes then. They were cleaned, I believe, in 81 or 82, and I know they were cleaned in 91. Russ Stoddard was leaving office, and he happened to be there, and I was introduced to Joe Kelson and a couple other people from the Public Works Department in 91. So and that's when they were cleaned. They've not been cleaned since, and they're full of silt, and the pond is, we now have a Manhattan Island on the end of the ditch in the Meadowcrest ditch going into the pond. So the pond is literally dying because of the silt that's being washed in there. Warren admits there was a problem up on I'll discuss each ditch. The Crestview ditch first. There was a problem with something up on Evergreen Drive that allowed the water to come down not down through the pipe, but it came down the hill on the surface. And it brought a lot of mud and leaves and everything else, and it filled in, and it began to fill the ditch in. In 2004, I think it was, the town came in and they put in something that exactly looked like these tables to catch the water, and so the silt would drop out. Well, that hasn't been cleaned, and now that silt is coming out and running down the ditch. The ditch, which used to be 5 to 6 feet deep, is now about 3 inches. Like I said, it's moving closer and closer to the pond. The town did repair I believe it was a head wall situation up on Evergreen Drive, and they fixed the curbing that was a problem, and now the water comes down perfectly fine. It's nice, it's crystal clear, and there's no more silt, no more mud. Town doesn't have to send a front end loader over to clean the road so people can get through. It's been perfect. Warren did talk about putting in 3 small mini dams. I spoke with Roman, who was from the Southwest Conservation District, and he said, that's a great idea, but he says this first system that you've got there that's full of silt right now, with the water coming in, it's still going to wash down, it's going to fill each one of the 3 dams, and you'll be back in the same situation. I mean, from what I can see, since they have fixed the head wall, the water is clean. There probably should never, ever be a problem there again. I think once we clean the ditch, and if Warren does what he said he believes it's his obligation to do that because he feels that some of that problem was the town's fault. But we're hung up on the cleaning of the ditch, and I'm not sure where we go from there. Now, the Meadowcrest ditch is another story. We are getting a lot of water from Elderslie. That volume is causing a lot of problems. We're getting flooding over there. Some of the neighbors that are on the west end of Crestview are seeing water in their backyards, which they've never seen. So we're getting a lot of water. As you know, the Elderslie retention basin has collapsed twice. And now I'm not sure it's even in place. I don't believe it's been replaced. I know the town is taking care of that. But we have a situation, there's so much water coming now, one of the residents is getting flooded every time it rains. The ditch, again, instead of being 4 to 5 feet, is about maybe 2 or 3 inches. And it's that way all the way out, and like I said, there's an island at the end. So we wanted to get that ditch fixed. Roman made a recommendation that they kind of built a whirlpool or a pond for a whirlpool, but because there's so much water coming now, it's not working, and the silt is being carried down. He recommended that the same thing be created farther down the ditch. Now, I just had a conversation with Warren out there, and Warren talked about well, there's no berm to stop that, but I'm sure that we could sit down and we could work something out. It's not a Crestview problem, and so we don't feel that we should have to come up with the money to clean the ditches. It's, like I said, the Crestview ditch is a town problem, and this other one is it's just a huge volume of water. Now, the first selectwoman told me that it's an approved system coming out of Elderslie, and that they're not responsible. I had my environmental people who do my environmental work in the business world. It's not their forte, but the one I spoke with the other day or last week, he said that he'll check into it for me. He does believe that even though it's an approved subdivision, that if that subdivision does cause problems, they are responsible. Be it the town or the agency that approved them, they are responsible for any conditions that are being created. So we're waiting to hear. Now, our proposal is to the town, if we can't get any place, we're not going to pay our taxes anymore. We're going to let you foreclose on the property. You can take it over. You can pick up the insurance on the pond. There's no there are no hiking trails because it's too small and most of it's swampy, so it would be useless, but we'll be free. And then we as taxpayers can come back to the town and complain about the situation and say the pond is creating a problem for us, it's reducing the value of our homes, and we can all ask for tax rebate. And we don't want to do that. We would just like to see the ditches cleaned. I'm sure Tony, if he can take his dog catcher hat off and his administrative cap off and put his finance cap on, he can find the money. Now, Elderslie gives the town over $200,000 a year in taxes. I would suspect that the Arnold Peck division will probably give the town $125,000 worth in taxes. I don't think it's too much to ask that there can't be some kind of a fund that put aside, and I'm not sure the price of what it would be, but the funds could be put aside so that maybe once every 10, 15 years, we can at least look at the ditches, and if they need a little this or a little of that, they would be fixed up. Now, like I said, I think the Crestview ditch is fine now that I think that will never be a problem again. Doesn't appear to be. I'd just like to get it cleaned, put in the small dams, and then it'll be done. The Meadowcrest ditch, I think we're going to have to meet on and make some decisions on that. Mrs. Robinson is now, like I said, receiving water in her yard, which she's never got, and so she's not very happy with that situation. So that's it.
As I told Mrs. Lockyer, we're not going to get into a back and forth, but we will do an update to the board at the next meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else for public comment? Diana?
Nothing to sign? Diane Urbano, and I want to talk a little bit, 52 North Pease Road. I want to go back to the golf course possible housing development, but speak more broadly about changing overall housing development in town. I feel that it's an extremely complicated consideration. We are a town that has a certain personality, and one of its greatest strengths is that of its school system. I think across the board that's always been the case. And so I think when we think about changing housing broadly, that the question shouldn't really be about the elderly or staying in town, but it should be about what permits the next generation to live here. Because from my studies and from my experience in housing, which is just mine, a healthy community is one in which the next generation could live. And I feel that people with kids my age, Jerry's age, they can't live here. And they can't live here not now because housing is so high, because housing has dropped so much, but because taxes are so high that the annual upkeep is expensive for them. So I just would hope that we all be prudent in our thinking, and that we think, there's an Iroquois quote or whatever, that we must consider our actions through the seventh generation. I think I hope the discussion about all this goes that way, and we look not just at the short-term economics, not just at the long-term economics, but the impact that 55 and up have. We're an old population. Our median age is older. That we consider, the demographic long-term trends of this, because this is a special town that is being confronted with challenges, because things have changed, demographics have changed. So that's my 2 cents.
Harriet?
Hi, I'm Harriet Cooper from 189 Ford Road. In the past 4 years, I'm talking about the Woodbridge Country Club. In the past 4 years, Woodbridge has had a dramatic 10% drop in the sales prices of their homes and the number of homes that have sold in the town. The statistics that I have from the Greater New Haven market area, in 2010, the average sale price in Woodbridge was $447,000, $463,000. Today, in 2014, the average sale price is $405,885, which is a 10% drop in the price of the housing and the number of units that have sold. It's really the price drop is more dramatic than any other town during the same period of time. Some have had reduced prices, but not as dramatic as this. Towns like Woodbridge, with little industry, have a small tax base, and they rely primarily on the taxes of our homes to balance the town budget. High taxes result in lower sales prices. We are pricing first-time buyers, young families, and seniors out of our town. Woodbridge is a blue ribbon school, an academic plum, rated #1 in the state. Young families keep a town vibrant. They usually have high student loans and are looking for smaller, affordable homes with a good school system. Woodbridge has always been the #1 reason young families move to town, as well as its proximity to the Yale complex. Yet we don't make Woodbridge a viable option for them. We are a great town. Enjoy our blue trails, our open spaces, playgrounds, and of course our nationally acclaimed school system. We are now seeing many families choose to buy homes in Orange rather than Woodbridge, where the homes there are generally smaller, newer, and have lower taxes. They also like the proximity to shopping and the highways, and they get to go to the Amity school system to boot. Many of our seniors would like to move into housing and sell their big homes. With more housing available, our seniors would have a place to move and sell their homes to new families, which would help the tax base. We have a lot of aged inventory in town where homes have not been updated or remodeled in years. We all get comfortable with our living spaces and perhaps don't see that the kitchen needs updating or the bathroom needs new fixtures until they decide to sell it. Removing wallpaper, painting, and landscaping can make a big difference in the price of a home. Buyers today don't have that time, the money, or desire to bring these homes up to date. Working together, we can find a way to make Woodbridge once again the best options for all families. Thanks.
Cheryl, did you want to speak?
I'm going to give a copy of this to Jerry. I'd like to be made. Thank you. Cheryl Lipson, Brookwood Drive. Before I start, I would like to say a public thank you to Susan Jacobs for her comments last week at the Police Commission meeting. This is not about the Woodbridge Country Club or Country Club of Woodbridge. I attended the Police Commission meeting Wednesday evening and was dismayed by the comments made by some of the commission members. I had just begun my comments when Alice Miskimen, I hope I pronounced her name correctly, started talking with Robert Scalatier and Tina Weiner while I was speaking. I stopped what I was saying to ask her if something was wrong. She told me that I was to put my comments into a letter that the commission would look at and would then give me a reply. Ms. Weiner then stated that she was advised by counsel that my comments were not for the police commission meeting. My comments concerned the purchase of a new police vehicle and why any additional purchases were necessary at this time, as they might not be warranted. I used the vehicles presently being used by Woodbridge Animal Control as an example of vehicles still in use with well over 100,000 miles after Assistant Chief Ray Stewart told me that it was not safe for officers to drive vehicles with over 100,000 miles on them. I was not told why the comments needed to be in writing, nor was I informed who counsel was, since Gerald Weiner, town counsel, wasn't present at the meeting. I then asked about the police department budget, which I assumed was part of the town budget. I used the word umbrella, which might have been incorrect. Stephen Falsigno told me that the police commission was not under any umbrella. Am I to assume that the police department is an entity unto itself with funding coming from a source other than the town? Mr. Falsigno's comments made absolutely no sense to me, and it was apparent that he simply ignored the meaning of my question since he didn't want to answer it. I asked Police Chief Marcucci if any officer was doing IT work in lieu of patrolling the town's streets. His response was he could decide where his men were being deployed. I was merely trying to discern whether it would have been more cost-effective to hire an IT person at a lower hourly rate than to have an officer doing that work at a higher pay scale. I came to the meeting looking for comments on issues that concern me regarding matters that affect the police department's budget. The statements that I received were either evasive or simply unanswered. I believe I asked legitimate questions concerning the operation of the town's police department, which is the largest portion of the town's budget after education. It is the responsibility of the board to listen to residents' concerns and questions and answer to the best of their ability in a business-like manner. That was not the case at the Police Commission meeting Wednesday evening, and since they report to the Board of Selectmen, I wanted to make you aware of this, and I'm asking for a reply. The sole intent of my inquiry was to see if there were any ways in which to save the town money. The hostility I encountered was inappropriate and totally unexpected. I also wanted to make the Board of Selectmen aware of the fact that the Police Commission held an executive session prior to allowing visitors into their meeting, although notice of this was made in their published agenda. And if this is in fact the case, isn't that a FOI violation? Thanks very much.
Good evening. Chuck Pine, 162 Center Road. On March 12th of this year, I sat before this Board of Selectmen and asked you to reject the recommendation of the Ethics Commission with respect to two violations I believe a member of the Ethics Board committed. To refresh your memories, the ethics complaint that I filed were regarding Dominic Thomas, that he appeared both before the TPZ and inland wetlands when the town code prohibits members of boards and commissions from appearing before other boards and commissions. In one case, he represented the Methodist homes. In the other case, he represented the Fire Commission. The Ethics Commission found, and I'm going to paraphrase here, that one, he didn't really appear before the TPZ because there really wasn't an application before them. Yet he sat in front of them, spoke to them, they apparently spoke back, and to me that's an appearance because I speak English, not legal, but that was their opinion. Second, regarding the issue of representing the Fire Commission, their feeling was, and again I'm paraphrasing, that what was in the ordinance didn't really apply to what he had done, and that the way the ordinance is written really wasn't what the intention was, and that the ordinance needed some reworking to properly reflect what it was trying to communicate. While I still disagree with both those findings, that's not why I'm here. I'm here because that was March. April, May, June, July, August, stay with me, September, October, November. 8 months. In 8 months, I don't believe there's been a thing done about this issue. I've scoured the town website. I can't find an agenda, let alone minutes, from either the Ethics Commission or the Ordinance Commission, Ordinance Board, whatever it's called, to look at this issue. So I would say this to you, ladies and gentlemen, somebody's not doing their job, and that's pretty bad government. If someone from the Ethics Board, Ethics Commission, did indeed make a recommendation, where is it? Why don't we talk about it? Why don't we put it out in the open and have a conversation? I personally think, having read it, it is crystal clear, it makes good sense, and doesn't need any surgery. But, as Ross Perot said, I'm all ears. So let's take a look and see what the potential resolution, what the potential rewording is. So I would say this to you. I'm going to come back next month, and either we're going to have a public conversation about a recommendation, if there is indeed one, or I'm going to sit here and remind you and these nice people sitting behind me and the people watching on TV that not a finger has been lifted about addressing what I think is an important ethics issue in this town. So I'll see you in 30 days. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Roger?
Roger Harrison, 66, still living at 66 Deer Run Road, and I'm in town today, so I appreciate the opportunity to address the board and those who may be listening. I'll try to keep it short. For me, that's not always easy, but I will try to do so. I want to talk about 4 points, and the 4 points has to do with process, the rural character of the town, some traffic issues, and of course the money implication of what lies ahead to the town if they, as they consider the use of the land at the Country Club of Woodbridge. I'd like to compliment Jeff, your committee, the Board of Selectmen, and the process that they have set up to put in place all the elements that will allow the evaluation of the bids that are out there that are now being assessed by a committee, so that we can have a true debate on the merits of developing that property and not have a piece of the pie missing. The town plan of conservation is an example. You can't go forward with a consideration unless you have all those elements in place. In contrast to what happened prior time the town voted on this land, I think we've had a remarkable change to the better. I hear a lot still from people who are trying to keep abreast of what's going on. And the positive comments I hear are encouraging, but the jury's still out because we don't know what the proposal is. Yet, we've been transparent. And I think we've had proper notice. We've had discussions, meetings to debate and to discuss the plan. Right now, we're in sort of an abeyance because I understand the committee is evaluating the proposal or what has come back to the town, whatever that number is, 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever. And therefore, people think, well, the process is shut down. There isn't transparency, but really there is. And we're following a course, I think, that's very positive, and I compliment, Ellen, what you put in place. The second issue has to do with the rural nature of the town and how this potential development may impact on what we have here, which is a beautiful town, a rural-type town, so close to a big city that we're in a unique position, and we have to maintain it. As many of you know, we bought a lot of open space in the past 2 decades, and we have maintained that rural character. We have, I think, established our town in a very unique way. But change is still an important and difficult topic and process. And those that say that putting up some senior housing on the fringe of a golf course is going to change the character of the town, I for one think that it won't, because that particular property is unique in the sense that it is in a very remote part of town. It's not in the heart of a residential area. Oh, yeah, there's some people around the property of the Woodbridge Country Club, but it has access to the city without having to go through a lot of neighborhoods. And we really have the infrastructure there that allows us to develop that in a way that's positive for us now and for the future. If you look at the traffic issue, Woodbridge Country Club had 300 some odd members in its height. It had many events during the weekend, and that road managed the traffic. There was no need to put a signal on that corner. So now we're talking about potentially putting up 50, 60, whatever units are of seniors that are not going to be commuting. And I think that the impact on traffic is not going to be a complication that the town would have to deal with. Perhaps most importantly, or perhaps one of the most important issues to me, is what has been said before. Woodbridge, better or worse, has got a reputation of being a town that has one of the highest taxes. So we have an opportunity now to diminish and reduce that ever increased burden that we put on homeowners. Unlike other communities, the homeowners really account for about 93% of all income, tax revenue. We have a very small commercial district, as we all know. That puts us in a very unique category of towns near a big metropolitan area. The beauty of this project, if it goes forward and if the proposals meet the anticipated expectation, think of these three numbers. If we get $2 million for that property, that diminishes our roughly $7 million debt by a significant number, and our debt service goes down. Second, if we put up somewhere around 50 homes there and they have an assessed value, we'll get an annual income of roughly around $400,000. Don't hold me to the exact number because I don't know what the market would get for these homes. That would in turn stem the bleeding that currently exists as we have to meet our obligations for debt service and for the operating expenses at the country club. So with this money, we'll be able to have an ongoing project that's not bleeding the town, and ultimately in another 8 years, we'll own the property free and clear, assuming it was a 10-year debt. So the financial implications will impact a lot of the things that have been said already. We're building for the future, which means younger people coming in here would have affordable homes at a tax rate that is going to be better than an escalation of a tax rate that puts us out of the market for these young individuals. The empty nesters will have a place. So as we discuss the merits of this, I hope everyone will keep an open mind. I see a lot of people here who I've seen before, and it's interesting to see, look around the room and see who's here and what they're going to advocate. And I hope the spin doctors will be kept to a minimum. We'll deal with the facts and let the public make an informed decision, not emotionally, even though that probably will enter into the picture to some degree, but objectively, looking at the pros and cons. We have a unique opportunity here that will have long-range implications, financially and otherwise, and I applaud what we're going through to assess the merits once we get the facts and ultimately the town decides where they want to go. Thank you.